what actually happens. All right, moving on to Shaman, we have Spirit Claws. Spirit Claws is 1 mana weapon, 1/3, has plus attack while you have spell damage. This is cool because this card almost single-handedly changes a lot of deck identities. You're going to have a lot of spell power minions, but you realize that the spell power minions are not exactly the most commonly played. You have Azure Drake and Blood Mage Thanos, and then after that you start thinking like, what are the actual spell damage minions? You have Kobolds, you have um, like Ogre Magi's, like Archmages, like some of these weird cards you don't really see being played. Does that mean you'll put all of those in your deck so that Spirit Claws is better? I don't think so. There's also the fact that Shaman has the Spell Power Totem. That's also worth noting. But this, if it becomes a 3/3 weapon, which it won't. On average, it probably is like a 1 to 2, like 1.52 damage weapon. That's still pretty dang good for 1 mana. So I think this is actually a pretty decent option for like the Zeus Shaman. You guys see like Malygos and you see like other things too. Like I mean, this is when you have spell damage on the board. By the way, it's not if you have it in your hand. I think because I was playing with it and I didn't play the Thanos and then it became a 3/3. So if you draw the Malygos, you still don't have the 3 attack. But the fact is, it encourages deck building in a different direction. We haven't seen too much spell power Shaman, and that's cool. So I like this card a lot for flavor, so that's the fun level is high. The power level is like 6 because a 1 mana potentially 3/3 weapon is really nasty. If you can get it off, of course. Wicked Witch Doctor. Now, this card I originally rated as like a 4. And then I started thinking about, and then I was playing a game while I was reviewing the cards, like in my head, like while I was building this out. And I was playing against a druid who played Violet Teacher, and I was just like, man, Violet Teacher is just so sick. And then I looked at this card, and it says whenever you cast a spell, and imagine if it said summon a 1/1. 1/1 is better than a basic totem most of the time, but you can also summon a 1/1. But you also have a lot of use for some of these other totems, like Spell Power Totem, like we mentioned. The Taunt Totem is usually pretty good in almost any situation, and then the healing totem is actually pretty useful too if you're having like totem golem out early. So when I compare this to Violet Teacher, it's actually like not bad at all. So then the question becomes, what spells do you use with it? And that's where it kind of gets a lot weaker. So I put so it's not insane. If a Violet Teacher came out in the expansion, people would be like, that's like an 8, you know. But because like Shaman doesn't have Innervate, I think it doesn't have necessarily like the most OP things. Like the only way it can like do that single turn sweep or single turn with like Rogue has Prep and Druid has Innervate is like you do either Totemic Might stuff or you do like Farsight stuff. Or I don't really think that's going to be the case. But you can maybe play this in the mid game and then start summoning a lot of things on the board and then either buff it with totems or play Bloodlust. I actually like this card a lot, and I think it has, out of all the cards that people like say is like hidden OP or sleeper, I think this one's the most sleepiest of them all. So don't be shocked if this card ends up being like a token Shaman and then you start seeing like all kinds of stuff coming out from it because it's a very reliable minion generator. Very reliable minion generator. Whenever you cast a spell, like even Coin, remember? Yeah, it's actually not so bad, I think. Okay, Maelstrom Portal, I think this card's bad. Like, I don't think, I think this is like another example of like, it's just not that impactful enough. This card is only good in like the cases where you play Malygos and then Maelstrom Portal. Even then, does it make the cut? You might play one of, the 1 cost minion is negligible. It's on average a 2/1 or a 1/2. I think like, what are the best case scenarios even in that? Maybe you want a taunt minion, like Shield Bear, so you can protect Malygos or Azure Drake or something like that. But it's a nice control card. I don't expect it to be that impactful, but it's only going to be seen in some of these really elaborate combo decks. Maybe it goes well with the Spirit Claws, who knows, because you're going to be playing Spell Power, certainly with this card. Yo, Luke Strange, welcome back for 3 months. Midberry Crunch, thank you for the 5 months. Welcome back to the Pride, guys. I'm sorry that I don't have the alerts notification, but I want to make sure to keep the review as clean as possible with the audio. Alright, Malkazar's Imp. We're now on the Warlock. Actually, you know what? I should change Maelstrom Portal, by the way. Fun level should be like higher, because if you maybe a 6, because if you see that card being played, that means a Control Shaman is being played, and I think Control Shaman is really awesome as an archetype. I was just thinking about the implications of the 1 mana card, which, yeah. So Malkazar's Imp, a lot of people had this as a potentially broken card because of the way it interacts with Doomguard and Soulfire, and I completely agree. I think this card is not going to be the card that defines the set, because honestly, Zoo can just draw cards at will. The only time that the card draw usually ends up being relevant is if they pick up the extra card that's more optimal for removal, or if they end up drawing like an additional card to fill out their mana late game. So things like if you life tap, you start off the turn top decking Malkazar's Imp, and then you top deck Doomguard. That's really good. So I think the early game implications aren't nearly as important. Like a lot of times the way a lot of times if Zoo has like 5, if they have 2 or even 5 cards in the hand, you're not even like that really concerned if you have dominant board control, because you can answer almost anything they do. And the only way they can come back is Forbidden Ritual. How many times have you been in position as Warrior where it's like turn 4 or 5, Zoo has like 4 cards or 5 cards, but you have like a weapon up, and you have like Ravaging Ghoul, and it's like, who cares how many cards they have? Zoo is like board control oriented. So if the situations where this is really good, it's going to be really, really, really freaking good. It gives Zoo a lot more range, essentially. And especially if you play like the Fisted Jiraxis and you're trying to be super aggro with it, that gives another dynamic. And I'm not talking about discard lock, because I don't think that's going to be actually a thing. The problem with discard Warlock is that you have to play a lot of the suboptimal cards like Succubus and the Librarian. And those cards are a lot less reliable than some of the other cards that you can play in its stead. Or in its stead, excuse me. The fact that it's a demon also is pretty cool, because that means you can combo with other demon cards. I think Demon Fuse is a TGT card, so maybe you see that. I don't know. Karazhan. This card is not actually that bad. A lot of people rated it as really poor. I think it's playable in Reno Warlock, and it might actually shine in Reno Warlock. The reason being is that Cho'Gall actually doesn't have a lot. The reason why Cho'Gall is not viable is because there's not good spells to play with it. Part of the and I said this in my previous review, by the way, when everyone, and I like to put it out there, a little bit self-serving, I know, but a lot of people were saying like Cho'Gall was great, and I was like, no, I don't think it's that good, because I don't see so many spells that you want to play with it. You definitely don't want to like play Cho'Gall in Twisting Nether, because Twisting Nether destroys Cho'Gall. You want to play it with like Siphon Soul and like maybe Shadow Bolt. But Karazhan is like another minion to play with Cho'Gall. And if you can recall the power of Dr. Boom, the reason why, like, people always said that if Dr. Boom, just without the Boombot effect, is already like 9/9 for 7 mana, and you split it up to it's annoying. And then the Boombots are just like extra. People always say like they even theory crafted playing Dr. Boom even without the Boombots. But I mean, obviously, part of the reason why he's insane is Boombots. You play Cho'Gall, you play Karazhan, and you're Reno Lock, so you're tapping a lot. You're drawing a lot of cards. You're coiling. You're drawing. You're tapping. I don't think it's that crazy to think that Karazhan plus Cho'Gall is like a butt ton of stats. It's a 7/7, a 1/1, a 2/2, and a 3/3, and you just gave up 5 health, and it's like whatever. I'm life tapping anyways, and trying to be defensive. I have Reno anyways. What if it actually ends up becoming like this big tempo swing for Reno Lock to be able to command the board again? I don't see it working in Zoo at all. Zoo can just do so many better things for 5 mana, like play Doomguard or play like double power overwhelmings, but I like it in the control handlock / Reno Lock decks. Alright, Silver Warrior Golem. Oh, sorry, by the way, if you see Karazhan, I don't think it's that cool of a card. In fact, I kind of get scared by the idea of Cho'Gall Karazhan, because I think it's just like stupid amount of stats on the board. But yeah, so I don't really think it's that fun. Meanwhile, Silverware Golem, that's a fun card. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of RNG just deciding games with tempo early on, because if you Soulfire or if you Doomguard and summon a 3/3 with it, that sounds a little too OP. But keep in mind 2 things. One, discard mechanics early in the game. It is impactful to a certain degree, because one, if you're playing Soulfire, that means you're not playing the minion, and then you have to discard the right card to do it. So it's not always that reliable, versus like the difference between Tuskar Totemic and this, because Tusker Totemic can summon a 3/4 or like a 3 mana totem, is that Tusker Totemic at least gives you a 3/2 and it synergizes with Flame Tongue and it synergizes with Thing from Below. Silver War Golem is like, well, it's like the main reason why you would play all these discard cards, because Fist of Draxus is nothing amazing. It's just one of those things where I don't think discard Warlock is there just yet, but I think it's getting better. Zoo is just like so much better version of it in my opinion, and if you want to play this as an aggro thing to surprise other people, you can. But you know, the fact that it's also 3 health means that it's really easy to trade in. So I don't know, like it dies to almost every weapon, it dies to like all these abusive target traits, etc. So it's not necessarily like really good for like the aggro matchups nor the mid-ranging matchups. Also, the reason why I knocked it down from like fun because you want to see if it summons is because honestly the Temple Swing might end the game, and I don't want turns 3 and 4 to determine if the game's won or not. Fool's Bane, we're now on Warrior class, the last of the classes. Fool's Bane is a very fun card to play, I think, for the Warrior. Very frustrating from the opponent's side. If you ever see Doomhammer, like the reason if Doomhammer could only hit face, it would actually get a lot worse. I know a lot of people are gonna immediately type in chat, "Oh, Doomhammer only goes face anyways." But the fact that you can play Doomhammer on 5 and clean up minions and continue to clean up small minions and help get through taunts and stuff is like a really big deal. Fool's Bane is kind of like that effect. A lot of times you play it on 5 so that you can just clear everything. And you can literally clear everything like by turn 5. You know, you can piece 2 attacks to kill a 6 health minion, or up to 6 health minion, then kill like a small thing, and then kill like a totem. Like that's ridiculous, you know. And you can also save the last charge too if you want. I like this card from a flavor perspective. I like the art. I really like the effect. I don't think it's overpowered. I do think it could replace Gorehowl because Gorehowl requires 7 turns to get out, and this can only require 1 turn. I mean, Gorehowl's not really usually played over 7 turns. You're usually attacking like 3 or 4, and then you can even consider replacing for Fiery War Axe, etc. But I think Fool's Bane is a very cool card, and I know Warrior's a class that's really dominant right now, but you don't want each class to just not get anything. You want them to get something, and I think this something is pretty cool. It does give them more control options. I don't want to see more fast warrior archetypes just hitting me in the face with weapons. It doesn't feel the most amazing. That's just from my personal perspective. Also, another thing too is that Warrior doesn't have many 5 mana plays. I think Brawl is like usually the only thing played at 5. Sorry, for control styles. I think Cthulhu Warrior, some people put Crazed Worshipper, which is pretty subpar. And if you play Crazed Worshipper, you you might just play this instead of the Crazed Worshipper in Cthulhu decks, even if you run it. So I think it naturally fits in some control styles. And I like that it can't attack heroes. You know, that's obviously very good. So you can't just do 12 damage to the dome. Ironforge Portal. This card is actually kind of cool because it is life gain in a way, and the life gain is like 2 mana. Like think about what 4 health represents. Okay, there's like a theory in these kinds of card games of like unit measurements of like how you can get certain advantage. So a certain amount of health is worth a certain amount of mana. What is 4 health worth? Is it worth 2 mana? Not really, because most 2 mana cards that restore health are like Holy Light for 6, or like Healing restores 3 for 8. So on average, every 2.5 healing is worth 1 mana. So it's like 1.5 mana, 1.75 mana worth of life gain. And then you realize you summon a 4-cost minion. So actually, this card does a decent amount on paper. The reason why I rate it as a 3 is because I don't think Warrior's in a position where they want to play this card in anything. I think this is the wrong class for it. I think this fits a lot better in just like Freeze Mage, for example, or like it doesn't feel like Warrior needs this card. Warrior has so many other options. If they want to play faster, they have minions to play reliably, and they have so much removal already. And if they want to have life gain, it doesn't feel like it fits in Warrior. So that's the reason why I gave this power level 3, because I don't think Warrior plays this. I think other classes do. Druid might even play this, but I don't know. No, Druid doesn't really play it either. What? Eh, it's just awkward. It's just awkward. Yogg Warrior? Okay, okay. Priest? I'm not sure if Priest would, because I don't know what they do with the armor. I think Rogue might, because Rogue gains back some of that life it uses with all. The reason why I said Druid is because Druid uses hero power a lot to trade into stuff. So does Rogue. And then Freeze Mage obviously to live. Those are like the things that immediately stick out. In fact, I think Warlock uses this better. Yeah, Warlock uses this way better for control. So I just don't think it's a warrior card. It's like a Nubarok in Rogue. Just doesn't fit. It's a cool card though. And something a random 4-cost minion. There's some really fun ones too. Let's go to the neutrals. Oh, sorry. One more warrior card. Protect the King. I'm not in love with this card. I think it's fun. I think it's cool. I think it'll be hilarious when it summons off of Yogg and you have like you have a big board and then Yogg summons just like a bunch of pawns with taunt, which is very flavorful because every pawn. The whole point about a pawn in chess is that they're really annoying, but if they're used effectively, they're super good. And I think this is the exact same flavor. So very nicely done by Blizzard. Again, Warrior doesn't need it. Imagine if Priest got this card. I think Priest might be able to use it a lot better. Nah, I take that back, actually. They don't have, like, Bolster. So I guess the Bolster synergy kind of makes sense. Does Warrior have enough that they want to play Bolster? Like, what's the point of playing Bolster? So that way you can build up an existing defensive board and then push, but it feels like you don't need to do that already. I think like you do it to kind of troll, like the fact that you want to be unpredictable as Warrior, with an archetype like Taunt Warrior. But Warrior has everything already. It has combo decks, it has control decks, it has mid-range deck, it has aggro decks, it's got tempo decks. I mean, mid-range and tempo are kind of synonymous in a lot of ways, but also a little bit different. So Warrior doesn't really need this weird like slow push defensive play with tempo built into it and combos at the same time. I don't know. It's a fun card though, for sure. Also, it kind of has anti-synergy with the class. If you play this card, then you're probably not going to want to play Ravaging Ghoul. You're probably not going to want to play Brawl. Like, there's a lot of cards that it doesn't necessarily fit in. But I can see it being a one of in some cards. That's why I'm saying it's like a 3. Like in some of these corner case scenarios, it's good. I'd rather just play Bash or something,